Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. Today is Monday, September the 24th, and this is Bill Allen. I'm sitting in for Winston Chester, and we're looking at the first report is our weather by Haney. We got a high of 86 and a low of 73. It's starting to get a little bit nicer, a little tease there. The usual 50 to 60% chance of showers, mostly wind out of the east-southeast about 7. Water temperature is at average of about 87 right now. It's cooling off some. You can feel it. We still have a lot of effect from red tide out there. Breaks my heart. There's a lot of dead redfish, a lot of trout. You saw that film that Winston did last week, I guess, on that Jimmy Lumley sent in with all those dead fish on the tide line. But it's just part of the deal. Sunrise at 6:32, sunset at 6:36. Starting to change, getting dark a little bit sooner. We're looking at a full moon. We've got a low tide at 4 a.m., a high tide at 11:16 a.m., and then a low tide again at 5:56. So not a lot of water moving today and a full moon, but the peak times are considered pretty strong today for fishing, and the best being 5:58 a.m. to 6:58 a.m., so right around sunrise. And those things are usually pretty good. Apalachicola at Bluntstown is at 2.3 feet. It's come down over the past week or so. It's just on a slight fall right now, so it's a great level. Choctachi at Caryville is 2.5 feet, and it's fairly steady, going to start falling off a little bit towards the weekend. So river in pretty good shape. Be a great time to be down there. It's a little cooler, and things are starting to change as we come into fall. I know with all the humidity, it doesn't feel much like it, but we're almost to the end of September. So we're going to take this break, come back, got a special guest, and we'll see you then. All right, welcome back. I am joined by our mayor, my good friend, Greg Brudnicki. How you doing this morning, Greg?
Pretty good, buddy.
Good.
Pretty good.
We've got 2 extraordinary days to talk about fishing, but first, the fact that it is September the 24th. I know most of you are already doing this, but in case you need a reminder, hunting season is coming up and approaching fast. It's time to go through and start, cleaning some of those guns that you've had put up, servicing the bows, and if you're an old man like me, the crossbows, waxing strings, oiling them in the appropriate places, and don't forget tree stands. As we've been going through all our tree stands on the property and making sure those are secure, and checking those out for safety and the straps before the season starts. Also your game cameras and your feeders. It's time to make sure your batteries are good and that that you're well stocked. And I know a lot of you guys are already doing this, but it's not a good thing to get out there and have tree stand problems, and I don't always remember to check them, but it's a lot of things that need to be done right now before the season starts. And one thing that I really love is going out to the Bay County shooting range on Steelfield Road. I don't know if you've been out. Have you been out there yet? It's they've done a terrific job out there, and for your rifles, they have 300-yard, 100-yard, and 50-yard ranges. You can rent a sled to secure your rifle in to help sight it in. It saves you a lot of time and money and shells. And we get to as careful as we are, the scopes get banged around. If you shot a bunch last season, it's time to make sure those are tightened down and that nothing's changed on that. You don't want your first shot to be a bad one. So it's obviously they have pistol ranges out there as well, but they sell targets and they sell ammunition out there. It's a well-run facility and it's a very safe facility. For the dove hunters and the duck hunters coming up, there's they have sporting clays out there, and they have 5-stand. I mean, that's a great way to tune up and a great way to get some of the youngsters out and get them starting shooting and comfortable before you get into the dove field where it's live. So, you know, I highly recommend that place. I've been out there several times. It's out on Steelfield Road. It's just a tremendous facility and a lot of fun to go out there and especially take kids and grandkids and get them started. You take the 22s out there on that little 50-yard range and get them ready for squirrel season. So something I highly recommend. You know, time to go through as well your camping stuff and make sure everything's ready for the hunting season. But we are in the middle of a pretty bad fish kill-off on the red tide.
Oh, it's awful. I've just some of the pictures that I've seen, and I'm surprised I have not seen any fish floating up behind the house or in the bay, but along the beach and along the tide line in the Gulf.
Yeah.
The dead, so many dead fish. It's horrible, and you know, I don't know the answer. I mean, there's a lot of people that are blaming the state, like there's something that we should be doing about it. But I guess with the amount of rain, the algae bloom, and a combination of all those different things and the water temperature, I don't know.
It's a natural occurring.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's just nothing you can do about it, and you hate to see so many fish wasted. And most of you guys know that we fish a good bit, and pretty much 99% of the redfish we catch, we put back.
Right.
And I've had some people tell me, well, now with all this, don't you wish you'd kept some? Well, no, not even more. Now I'm glad that we put them back, and a lot of people do, and a lot of these guides, you know, are catch and release, because when you have something like this occurring, you know, the more fish we can get back in the water, the longer we're going to have this industry here. So we're going to take this first break and then come back with a couple of pretty amazing fishing days. All right, welcome back. It's been about 3 or 4 weeks ago now, and I'll have to look back and see. But I got a call like on a Wednesday afternoon to go Thursday morning, which I couldn't under any circumstances, had to work. So an invitation to fish over in East Bay, and you want to just run through the course of your morning or half day?
Well, I actually had a window of opportunity, so I took advantage of that. I couldn't take my dad on that morning because he had a physical therapy appointment where they come to the house, and also the nurse. So when you couldn't go, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just go, because I know if I step in the office, there's going to be 7,000 things to do. I went fishing. And lo and behold, I hit one of the places that we usually go, and the water was very, very dirty. Chocolate, dark, black, brown.
Coffee color.
Yes, very much so. And so I was thrown a topwater because the action and the sound is normally pretty good.
Didn't have a lot of wind that morning, right? Had a decent day?
Decent. And the tide was right. And I'm telling you, it was phenomenal. I think that morning I caught 17 redfish. And I called you, about 8:30, and said I had to, and I was out there at first light, I had to sit down and rest because I was too tired and so excited. I mean, they were just boiling, and I pretty much.
Jeff's running. You got it's difficult to take pictures when you're by yourself.
Yeah.
But there are several pictures that you're going to see, and these are not the same redfish in different positions. These are all different fish. He didn't get all of them.
Right. And you know, I got to a point which to show you that it was some skill, but mostly they were hungry, because I got to a point that I was so tired of trying to work the treble hooks out of the fish's mouths that I said, the heck with it, and I started throwing one of those redfish magics, which is just a single hook with a spinner, like a spinner bait used for bass.
Water.
And I was catching them on that. I mean,
So
it
here's
really
what's
didn't make
going
any
on.
difference.
I'm working, and I get a call at 8:30 in the morning, and you know, this is how it starts off. I decided to call you because I'm too tired to keep fishing right now. These fish are wearing me out, so you know I'm getting the knife turn here. That you should have gone, and he's literally is winded, and it was just. How big a stretch did you catch those 17 fish in? I mean, you didn't cover a ton of water out there, did you?
No, and I continue to catch fish after I called you.
Several times.
Yes, and so, but most of them, I just put the power pole down and sat there because they seemed to linger. A lot of times when you're when the water's moving and you're moving, you're better off to continue to move but I was continuing to get bites, so it was like shooting fish in a barrel for an hour and a half, and that happens. I mean, that's why they call it fishing. Sometimes you don't get anything, and sometimes you just slay them. You don't slay them as much as the other times, but it was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah,
to say the least.
And only one fish under 17 inches. Is that what I remember?
Yeah, there was one that was a borderliner, but most of them were 22 to 25, and there was one that was over the 27.
Yeah, and you guys, these fish are healthy. Mm-hmm. They're like footballs, I mean, they're fat fish.
So even though the water's dirty, the water is stained, I don't say it's dirty, it's stained, they pick up the color. After a couple of weeks, they start turning dark. And so you can see in those pictures that the fish are darker, but most of them had shoulders on them. They were healthy, fat,
strong fish.
And I was sitting there trying to hold them and getting the hooks out, and I'm going, well, I got to take a picture, and then I'm trying to do all this different stuff.
It.
So, but anyway, it was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, and the fact that, what we've talked about several times, and the old saying is never leave fish to find fish, and the smart play there is what Greg did, is just popping that power pole down, or anchor, or whatever you have. I highly recommend power poles, but popping that anchor down and fishing that area out. I mean, obviously they were ganged up in there. There was a good bait. You couldn't see it, but making some noise, and these fish are feeding. Yep. But, chasing them down with that trolling motor. I mean, and I know Greg, when he 200 yards out from that spot, the big motor went off, right? Mm-hmm. Trolling motor goes down on low and just easing into a position, which is what we do, upwind or tide, where you set up a drift, and you can work better that way, but you also you're staying off that trolling motor, not making any noise, and you're just if you can set up a good drift, that's a key. But like when you get there and they are going crazy, just drop that power pole, work them, continue. I mean, dirty water, bad conditions, making a lot of noise on top. I mean, those fish still eat. They're just, you can't see them, so you got to work areas. You got to, look for indentations, look for where they're hanging out, and just make a lot of noise.
Exactly. And, you can't see them because you can't see down. You'd be in 1.5 feet of water. You can't see the bottom because it's stained. You can't see them, but guess what? They can't see you.
That's right.
I had several fish strike within, 12, 15 feet of the boat, which doesn't happen as often. It doesn't happen very often at all when the water's real clear.
Right.
You know, and I mean, there's no such thing as sight fishing unless you see the wake, you know. And this was just one of those things where you saw the hump come out of the water when they were going after bait. So it was very, very exciting. I mean,
changing it up for something different, a little bit easier to work, not as stressful on you, is like throwing a redfish magic or a spoon or something that's going to put some flash in the water.
Right.
And you notice he went to that instead of going to, you know, our favorite go-to after topwater, the suspending baits, because you don't have that flash. You know, you got the moment, but you got the flash to get their attention, which obviously turned out to be a pretty good move. 17 redfish in a day, I don't care who you are, is a great day, you know. So anyway, let's go ahead and take this break. We're going to come right back. All right, welcome back. You know, off camera, Greg made a good comment, is that, you know, you don't want to take too many breaks when the fish are going crazy, because you know it's going to come to an end. So you want to catch as many fish as possible, you know, which will wear you out. But so after that story, we did make arrangements to go the next morning. Conditions basically the same. Tide had moved a little bit, but still a very good tide. Falling, you know, just having turned. And your dad went with us that day.
he did.
And
That's the last time he got to go fishing.
yeah. And I think most of you know that Mr. Brudnicki passed away, and you know, we're losing a lot of our World War II heroes. You know, we're running out. The way things are going, my dad, Bill's dad, your dad, you know, so he had a lot of great stories. Obviously loved to fish. You get the chance to still talk to some of those old veterans and hear what that's like. You need to write that down. You need to get all the information you can from him. It's fascinating. I wish I'd got more from my dad, but yeah. So we went that morning and had another good morning. Started off basically in that same area.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, if it works, go back there. So we did.
Yeah. So I think we wound up catching 10 that morning.
Yep.
And I think your dad got one.
Yeah.
We had only one trout. I think we had one trout the whole time. But I will go ahead and say that I think I caught 6 of those, so I had a little redemption, but I think he was tired, or just he was more helping his dad than he was fishing that morning. But
well, I was trying to play guide. I
he's looking for a tip.
I want to secure my tip.
He's looking for the tip. So we played off. Greg was still throwing that topwater some, and the fish had seemed to be pulled up, and I love to throw a soft plastic up on the shore in the weeds, in the grass, and work it out. And so as we were close enough to do that, you know, had one rigged weedless with a little bit of a lead head on it, and didn't see anything moving. Just, you know, threw up in there and caught a little further than I was going to on the little breeze we had. I popped it a couple of times, and, you know, like 8 feet from the shore, you know, I got slammed up there and had to drag him out through the grass, on which I love to do that. You know, I literally love to do that. But I worked some fish out like that, and some of the ones you caught were on topwater and that spinning bait. Greg's dad using the popping cork we had the gulp on that morning. Had the gulp on that morning. So it was a great morning. It wasn't the big feeding frenzy, but we had some weather issues that day too. Not the day that we ran from. That was a day that we got cut short between the Cove and East Bay. By the time we looked up, it was black. There was no going home, and so we fished right up until the time that you could see the rain coming across the bay. It started to lighten a little bit. So we ran over towards Cook Bayou to a friend's house to hide up under there. And of course, by the time we got there, we were all soaking wet.
Wow.
And then went straight back out there and finished fishing. But, you know, we had a ball. And, you know, dark water, I mean, you know, you go when you get to go.
That's
But
right.
the best time to fish is when you can go. And we didn't have great conditions, but we had a great time. And I lost a large redfish.
Well, you got popped off a couple times.
I did.
Where they swallowed it. But you know, one of the things too, and you talk about how can a 92-year-old guy go fishing? You know, I mean, you know, and when we had all that weather, we zoomed across. We got soaking wet. So when we got through, we start easing back out of Cook's Bayou, and it's starting to clear a little bit, but it still looks nasty. And I looked at the old man. I said, "Do you want to go home? You know, all wet and all stuff." He goes, "No way." You know, he wanted to go back and keep fishing. I mean, he never, the weather didn't mean anything to him. As long as lightning wasn't popping, he was ready to stay out there.
And all the times that I got to fish with him, and I know you have more, but in all the times that we fished in this last 2, 3, 4, 5 years or whatever it was, he was never, I don't care how hot it was or cold in Appalachia, he was never the first one that brought up that he wanted to go or it was time to go. I never heard the man say that, you know, it's time to go or when we getting out of here. He would fish all day long. And, you know, I loved him to death. Winston ran that tribute of one of our trips together that he came and filmed was a week or two ago on Thursday. Look that up if you didn't see it. It's great. It's classic Mike. He was funny. He was catching fish, and we all had a ball. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming in, brother. Absolutely. And listen, enjoy the day. If you get to fish, go do it. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.